Hey, good morning, everybody. Thought we'd start a little bit early today. I got a lot to do, but some days when I think I've seen it all, something else blows my mind. Today, we're going to look at some comments that Trump made from 2016 that seem to suggest that he knew about the coming pandemic. We're also going to break down the miniseries Elvis, starring Kurt Russell, from 1979. Today's show is probably required viewing. We're going to cover some pretty profound information. I'm not sure if anyone's covered this yet. We're going to talk about a man named Faucier. Faucier. Literally, almost the same name as Fauci, dealing with a camel virus called MERS. Unbelievable. Now, a subscriber sent me these two studies that we're going to talk about today about Trump's microscopic camels and this man, Faucier, who stole some camel coronavirus research from Saudi Arabia. You can't make this up, you guys. You can't make it up. I'm going to show all this to you today, but I wanted to give you a summary of what we're going to be covering. Now, the rabbit trail started back in 2016. And in 2016, we did a video on this channel about this story from the Daily News. This is an interview with Trump in 2015 was the interview. We did the video in 2016. It's on this channel for those who want to go back and look. And Trump made a comment to Matt Lauer, who was interviewing him. This was likely during the campaign. And Trump talks about how he's so rich that it will be hard for him to pass through the eye of the needle to get to heaven. Here it is right here. I'll put a link to this. This is from 2015. And again, we covered it in 2016. We called Trump the eye of the needle before there was ever COVID, before there was ever a bunch of syringes poking everybody with vaccines. Matt Lauer talks to Trump here. And he says, "Don't you ever worry about your wealth. I saw an interview once where you called the Bible your favorite book." "It is, Matt," says Trump. "But it's been so difficult for me because there's that Bible verse, I think it's Noah 3:14, about how it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get to heaven. It makes me so sad. As you know, I'm very rich." Matt Lauer replies and says, "So what are you going to do about it?" Trump says, "I'm breeding a line of microscopic camels, and I'm sparing no expense. It may cost me $500 million, but it's important, classy, scientific work." This is Trump's answer about how he's going to get to heaven, breeding a line of microscopic camels. Now, this study that he did, this breeding line of camels, does not exist. So we were only left to speculate, weren't we? And that's what I'm going to present to you today. Because the origin of the MERS coronavirus is from camels. Now, many of you notice that he misquoted the Bible. Noah 3:14 isn't in the Bible, but there is a book of Noah associated with the book of Enoch. And so far, I have not found Noah 3:14 in that book. I need to probably look at that because this could be a clue. But others of you mentioned that maybe this Noah 3:14 reference that Trump makes here has to do with the Noahide laws. Either way, it's very cryptic, isn't it? Trump will overcome the challenge of getting to heaven through the eye of the needle by breeding a line of microscopic camels. What a weird response. Somewhat blasphemous, if you ask me. So, what else did we find today? Let me go back into the chat, make sure you guys are with me. And this was all you. This wasn't me. When we started talking about this passage, many of you said, Casey, Google search microscopic camel virus to see if we could figure out what Trump was talking about. So I did. And the third study, the third search result that pops up is the one I'm going to read to you next. Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, Coronavirus, MERS, CoV, Origin, and Animal Reservoir. Remember, Trump made this comment in 2015, before he was even president. Let's read the abstract on this study, because they mention bats and camels as a reservoir for the coronavirus. Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus is a novel coronavirus discovered in 2012 and is responsible for acute respiratory syndrome in humans. Though not confirmed yet, multiple surveillance and phylogenetic studies suggest a bat origin. The disease is heavily endemic in dromedary camel populations of East Africa and the Middle East. It is unclear as when the virus was introduced to dromedary camels, but data from studies that investigated stored dromedary camel sera and geographical distribution of involved dromedary camel populations suggested that the virus was present in dromedary camels several decades ago, though bats and alpacas can serve as potential reservoirs for MERS-CoV. Dromedary camels seem to be the only animal host responsible for the spillover human infections. This study is dated 2016. Now, if you think your mind is blown now, well, stay tuned, because it gets worse. Because here's where things get weird. One of you, just hours ago, emailed me another camel connection. The very coronavirus that we just read about, MERS-CoV, was discovered by an Egyptian virologist in Saudi Arabia named Dr. Zaki. The first confirmed case of MERS-CoV was reported in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia in 2012. Egyptian virologist Ali Zaki isolated and identified a previously unknown coronavirus from the man's lungs. But here's what happened. Dr. Zaki found the virus and isolated it from the man's lungs, but it was stolen from him by a Dr. Fauci, not to be confused with Dr. Fauci. You can't make this up. This was back in 2013. Now, this is Dr. Fauci, who stole and patented MERS-CoV from the Egyptian Saudi virologist. This is him right here. Are you ready for this? He was a Dutch virologist born in 1966. There is that Apollo Trump year, the 66th floor penthouse. Was all of this planned? Many, many, many decades ago. Now you're going to hear in his own words, Ron Fauci, how he basically created a killer virus. I could not believe this.
To investigate whether the H5N1 bird flu virus would have the potential to acquire the ability to spread between mammals. As it is, bird flu virus is only affecting poultry, but it might be that by mutation the virus could change into a virus that has pandemic potential and spread between mammals and thus humans. The NSABB advised to only release our data in a very restricted form, and we will respect the NSABB advice. So we have drafted a new manuscript that, in which none of the details on methods and mutations that we found is included. It was our initial response that all the data should be published. That's why we submitted the manuscript in full to the journal.
Now, this was back in 2011, as he explains why he created the killer virus. So at about this point, my heart was beating out of my chest, because it was this very same Fauci that studied the link between camel MERS COVID and human MERS COVID. Camels are the source of the MERS coronavirus. This is the study right here. MERS coronavirus from camels in Africa exhibit region-dependent genetic diversity. Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, is a zoonotic disease of global health concern, and dromedary camels are the source of human infection. You look down in the study, and Fauci's name appears. Let's read how he was involved in this. Oh my gosh. The phylogenetic analysis shown in Figure 1 was done using the maximum likelihood method. Other phylogenetic methods are detailed in supporting information. Dromedary virus BF785 and NIG 1657 viruses isolated as part of this study were chosen for comparison with the prototype human MERS COVID strain provided by Fauci, and a dromedary camel virus isolated in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Camels was the source of MERS coronavirus. Now, for anybody reviewing this video, I'm not making any assumptions that this has anything to do with the current COVID virus, okay? I'm not making any assumptions here. I'm simply presenting information of early research on a different coronavirus called MERS. Now, here's the final nail in the coffin, because some of you are probably like, Casey, let it go. This is Fauci. I had to translate this page because it was in Dutch. Virologists, the Netherlands is full of hosts that can transmit a virus. This was from 2020 during the pandemic. Virologist Ron Fauci. He regularly dined with Donald Trump's corona advisor and features in one of Dan Brown's bestsellers. Meet Ron Fauci, one of the most important virologists in the Netherlands. So, apparently Fauci and Fauci were hanging out, according to AD News. It's probably a Dutch magazine. What the heck is going on? This is why I tell you guys, don't get wrapped up in the right-left paradigm. Don't get wrapped up in thinking that Trump and Fauci are enemies, because they never probably were. It's part of the game. What's the end game? Well, that's up to you to decide what the end game is. Money is a hell of a drug, isn't it? Follow the money. So, we're left with a conundrum, aren't we? We're left with a conundrum about Trump's comment in 2015. I'm breeding a line of microscopic camels that are going to help him get to heaven through the eye of the needle, and I'm sparing no expense. May cost me $500 million, but it's important, classy, scientific work. And it makes you wonder, is the $500 million have to do with the 500 million people that was on the Georgia Guidestones that would be left on Earth? He almost has to be referencing the MERS COVID, whose source came from camels and bats. Now, I always had my suspicions about Apollo, the god who brings disease and then brings the cure. But until now, I didn't really have any evidence other than the esoteric. But here we see it in his own words. Now, I'm going to go back into the chat, and then we're going to get into a very, very important TV series from 1979 called Elvis. Wow. Now, who plays Elvis? Well, it was Kurt Russell. Now, this is weird because Kurt Russell played a child in the Elvis film. Here he is right here next to Elvis in this film underneath the Seattle Space Needle. That's Kurt Russell right there. And there's Elvis. The name of the film was called It Happened at the World's Fair. It happened at the World's Fair. Now, many of you saw the decode that we did on this a few days ago. To me, it was probably one of the most important decodes we've ever done. Sitting at about 10,000 views. I guess a lot of people really aren't into Elvis anymore. They don't want to see him in a bad light or whatever, for whatever reason. But this decode that we did unlocked the final secrets of this World's Fair connection, the umbrellas, the prescription symbol and Trump's logo, family name, and everything else. So, what was Kurt Russell's role in this film, his very first debut film? Well, he kicks Elvis in the shin. This is the shin letter in Phoenician. And it looks like two fangs, two teeth. And in Chinese, the word means new, something new. And so what does all this mean? Well, here's where things get weird. Because Elvis was 28 years old in this film in which Kurt Russell appeared. And then when Kurt Russell played Elvis, he too was 28 years old in 1979. So essentially, these two men are looking at each other in a mirror. Twin roles, Elvis and Kurt Russell, both 28 in their roles as each other. Now, we saw this a lot in these films over the years, these twin roles where someone played someone else at the age that they were when they played them. Some kind of time loop, right? And I can't remember the last one we found, but I didn't want to spend too much time searching back through our decodes. But maybe some of you could call those out if you remember. Some of you have amazing brains and you can remember all the decodes that we did. But this is actually a common thing that really is hiding in plain sight. People playing a role of someone that they were connected to in another role. Okay, my memory just came back to me. The last time we covered this was the lady that played Wednesday in the Addams Family. And she died, and it was this weird time loop thing, because she died, like, literally in some kind of time loop related to the Wednesday reboot. Remember that? I can't remember the specifics. But that was the last time we covered one of these mirror roles. Now, let's keep going with this decode, because Elvis basically grows up. Well, let's play this here.
They say when one twin dies, well, then the other one grows up with all the strength and good sense for both.
I don't want to be just half a person.
Don't you think about it like that?
So this is Elvis as a boy and his mother, of course. And he obsesses over his dead twin. I mean, this is about as creepy as it gets. And this goes on throughout the miniseries. This is the young Kurt Russell. Keep watching here.
I know, baby. You went and you was talking to your brother again?
Yes, Mom. It makes me feel good.
Electricity.
So, weirdly, this little boy here, it was probably the same age as Kurt Russell was when he played with Elvis in It Happened at the World's Fair. Do you see how everything is like looping? It's like a time loop. Let's keep going here, because next you're going to see Elvis all grown up. And his father encourages him to be an electrician. Now, there is some point in the miniseries where Elvis is wearing a lightning bolt necklace, but I don't think that I captured that scene. But this, I believe, what you're going to hear next is the Tesla connection. Nikola Tesla and this whole electromagnetic universe.
Good.
Electricity. That's where the money is, son. The future is in electricity.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice for him to go into music?
Wow. Just wow. Elvis works at the electrician's part-time. He drives a crown truck. Now, we all know he's the king, and kings wear crowns. I get that. The king of rock, right? But we also know that Corona means crown. So this is another Trump connection. Now, I need to, again, give credit to Jurassic Liars. You spell that Jew, Rassic Liars, YouTube channel. He may have covered this movie and parts of it, and some of our research may have overlapped. I have not seen his work on this, so if there's any overlapping, it means that it confirms some of his findings. The two witnesses, the Holy Spirit, helping to reveal all truth, right? So, Crown Electric Company. Now, let's keep going here. Now, Trump was 33 years old in 1979, 123 days after the series aired. And I was like, okay. Like, I filed that away in my brain. I'm like, 123 days after this miniseries aired in 1979, Trump was 33 years old. But like, I was like, okay, but what does that mean? 123 days, it probably means nothing, right? So I just filed it away just in case the number 123 showed up in the miniseries. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to see 123 in this movie. Well, guess what? It appears twice. Watch.
Ed Sullivan?
This was Elvis's first Ed Sullivan appearance. And there you see on the cameras 1, 2, and 3. Notice how the numbers are twinned. 123 days before Elvis would be 33 years, Trump would be 33 years old. This was the first appearance of the number 123 in the miniseries. Let's look for the second one. On the hotel room door of Elvis's manager. So, Jurassic Liars was on to something, wasn't he? This Elvis Trump twin. Unbelievable. Now, here's the math. When the series came out on February 11th, I put 2023, but it's actually 1979. Doesn't matter. It's the date range that matters. And there you see from February 11th to Trump's birthday was 123 days in 1979, which was 33% of the year. At 33 years old. Now, let's keep going. Now, let's look back in history about Elvis and his appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show, because there were a total of 3. Here's Graceland from the website Graceland. They talk about these appearances. And there were 3 total. The first one was on 9/9, 1956. What's the importance of 9/9? Well, if you take 9/9, you invert it, it's 66. It's that Apollo number. Again, Trump's 66th floor penthouse. That Trump number. Now, his second appearance is when Elvis gets the vaccine on stage. And his last appearance. Hope you're sitting down for this. Was on the anniversary of the Capitol insurrection, January 6, 1957. 64 years later. And 64 is 46 in reverse, the year Trump was born. Now, Elvis, of course, died in 1977. I'm sure that Jurassic Liars probably picked up on that one. The whole 777 matrix with Trump as well, tied directly into the date, the age that Elvis died. Now, what else is going on here? Well, let's keep going. Elvis then buys Graceland in the series. Let's take a look, see what's going on with that.
Hey, what's going on, Joe? It's our new home.
So what?
Tell you the truth, it used to be a church, and they used to call it Graceland. Come on, I want to show you everything. It's got 23 rooms.
23 rooms?
23 rooms. 23 and 23 is 46. Again, the year we are told that Trump was born. It's also 13 acres.
13 acres of grading land, Daddy. 13.
Now, Elvis then joins the army. What year did he join the army? 1958. Another Trump number. Now we know that Trump's penthouse is on the 66th floor of Trump Tower, but we know that Trump Tower only has 58 stories. 58-story building, and he chose to renumber the floors so that he could have a 66th floor penthouse that goes up to 67 and 68. It's a 3-story penthouse. So these are more Elvis connections. And here we see another clue. Let me check in with you guys. We'll keep going with this. Wow. Now, many of you, I don't know who sent me years ago, someone sent me Trump's military photos. Showed him at the tip of the spear of his military academy photos. Behind him was an arch, and it said, "Many men have passed through these portals." We then looked up the word triumph, the Arch of Triumph, and we realized that triumphs are arches all around the world. Triumph has the word Trump in it. Now let's keep watching here, because on Elvis's side patch, it says spearhead, the tip of the spear. Let's watch here. There's Trump's military academy photo. Men have passed through these portals. There's the arch, and there's Trump at the tip of the spear. The serpent in the chest, the twin possession. The tip that pokes you that causes the twin possession.
You got nothing to worry about. I consider it my patriotic duty to keep you in the 90% tax bracket.
Back, you can't even hear the Jordanaires. They got my voice so loud you can't hear nothing else.
Now, while Elvis was in the military, his mother died at 46 years old. Again, that's the year Trump was born. So lots of 46s, right? Lots of 58s. 77s. Now, here we see the Trump key again behind Elvis. As Elvis is ranting about how his music, he calls it, is being changed. That they're amplifying his voice above the rest of the group. Changing his music. And he's ranting and he's very upset about this. As he's yelling at Priscilla Presley.
Elvis, it's one
I think the
song.
fans just want to hear my voice, see? So let's...
Where have we seen this key? On the wall behind
Idiot
him.
Gallup in New York amplify my voice. You think they care what I think? No way!
Remember, the amplification of the voice. The amplification of the voice. There's a tone. There's a tone that we've been talking about. And we think that it has something to do with 5G technology. But there could be something else. There's some secret key. A note. And it's a mind control note. And it's weird because he's ranting about the amplification of his voice. That's metaphor for the amplification, whatever this key, whatever this note is, that's going to change the world. Here are all the keys that Trump has handed to people. Truck drivers get a gold key. Netanyahu got a gold key. Doral gets a gold key, and however many keys he's handed out to people. I can't remember any other president who's handed out keys like this. There was an ancient god that handed out keys like this. His name was Janus. The two-faced god, the man in the mirror. Janus and Jambres, the Egyptian magicians, the twin magicians in the Pharaoh's court, who battled God's pair, Aaron and Moses, who threw down staffs that turned into serpents. You knew I was a snake when you let me in. Well, let's keep watching. Because now you're going to see Elvis talk to his twin in his shadow.
Success. I got it all, man. I ought to be the happiest person in the world. It's what I've wanted all my life, Jesse. Wife. Little baby. But I still feel like there's something missing, you know?
Reminds me of the Trump man in the mirror. Now, he was mocked for this, right? But don't get caught up in the right-left paradigm, okay? Otherwise, you lose the meaning. This mockery isn't really mockery. It's ritual. It's confirming everything. It's confirming the sorcery. If you start getting feelings and going, why are they making fun of him? He's just working for us. You've already lost the battle. The man in the mirror. The man in the mirror. King me, he says. Or Time magazine said. That's a reference to the king. Wow, amazing work, Jurassic Liars. Amazing work. I'm hoping that some of what we're covering today is crossing over. I'm sure it has, because from what I hear from other people, this is probably stuff you've already noticed. This king, I'm sure that's something you found. But this is crazy because this goes so deep. As he's talking to his twin in the shadow. Wow.
Somewhere deep inside me, there's an empty place.
Oh, before I forget, I understand that Jurassic had some issues with copyright. I want to give you a bit of advice and help. I probably shouldn't do this, not because I don't want to help you, but because once the algorithms learn how you can do it to get around the algos to be able to use this copyright content, they'll simply adjust the algos. Why don't you reach out to me personally and I'll tell you what I do to avoid copyrights? And every so often I'll get one, but I'll show you what I do and how I do it. It requires some editing. Just reach out to me. My what is it called? My email address is on my front page of my channel, and you can email me, and I'm anxious to hear from you, and I can give you some advice on how to cover some of this stuff without getting your, copyrights and your channel taken down. Okay, let's keep going with this. Let me check in with you guys. Make sure we're still together. This is huge. Now, let's go in here. It looks like we're good. Whew. Blown away. Now, the movie ends with Elvis set to do 57 shows in Las Vegas. How do we know he did 57 shows? Well, it says it right here. Where does it say it? I think it's on this page. Let's see here. 57 shows. Maybe it's on a different page. Anyway, he was set to do 57 shows in Las Vegas. Now, why is that important? Well, there's that number again, 575G. It's the frequency, it's the tone, it's the key, it's the note. Now, where was he going to do these 57 shows? In the International Hotel. Watch.
What's it gonna take, man? What's it gonna take to fill that up?
Guess what? Trump's International Hotel is displayed, well, is in the same spot where the Frontier Hotel was. It's not the same hotel Elvis performed at, but see this, the new Frontier Hotel Casino? Well, watch this next part of the film.
It's Elvis's first public appearance after nearly 10 years in seclusion. These are... Elvis Presley arrived here this morning at the International to appear at the first...
Wow. This location is where Trump's International Hotel would be built a few decades after this film came out. At the Frontier Hotel, as they're talking about Elvis in the film. Now, this isn't where Elvis performed. He performed at the International Hotel, which doesn't have any links to Trump other than by the name that Trump chose for his international hotel. That's at this Frontier location.
First major hotel built off the Strip.
Now, Trump's International Hotel is 64 stories tall. Okay? 64 stories, and of course he was born in 46. Now, what is the significance of that? Well, 32 and 32 is 64, and 23 and 23 is 46. Let that sink in for a minute. So, there are lots of Elvis synchronicities, aren't there? That's the end of the decode on the miniseries Elvis. This is one you probably would have to take notes on because it's so deep the rabbit hole goes. Now, tomorrow we'll be breaking down some studies on how ultra-low frequency waves actually cause molds and fungus to release mycotoxins. This is the same low-frequency technology used in RFID chips. We're also going to get caught up on some of the headlines tomorrow as well. Let's go into the chat for a bit. Thanks everybody for showing up. This was a mind blower, wasn't it? Good morning. Temporal time pincer. Wow, Dino. You know, I've had my suspicions about that. This whole time travel aspect. And, you know, I don't know how that fits into the context of the Bible. But, you know, we know that demons jump down through time. We do know that, don't we? And they possess host bodies, and they can live all the way through the timeline. So to them, it might be like time travel. We're dealing with a clown demon, is the best that I could surmise. Some kind of clown demon, like Pennywise, like the It Clown. And it possesses presidents, and they turn into clowns, essentially. And they do really evil things. So, let's go into the chat here. They knew. I believe that they did. Believe that they did, you guys. You're welcome, Nature Nurture. Thank you guys for showing up and staying committed to finding the truth. Time travel since 1958, says Wire Paladin. Shalom to you as well. Wow, our son was left quadriplegic after a mycoplasma infection. Oh my goodness. Prayers to you and your son. It's amazing how, you know, I guess I've been pretty blessed in my life. I haven't had huge loss. When I see people who have had to go through really hard things and they still have faith, it makes me humbled. Let's put it that way. I'm just humbled by it. Because true faith comes when you've lost everything, or someone that you love is hurt. So, Yeah. All right. Yeah, then okay, so Zarlodia says that the Nephilim looked like clowns, and I've heard that theory before. I would be anxious to go down that rabbit hole. If you guys have any like evidence for that, some proof, something that you could send to me through email, then we'll do a deep dive on Nephilim clowns. All right. Am I familiar with the Phoenicians? I haven't dug too deep into them. I think the last thing we talked about with the Phoenicians was years ago. The purple, Tyrian, and heliotrope colors. The city of Tyre, this royal purple. The hexaplex trunculus, if my memory serves me correctly. Seashells that exist in the mountains around the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, that is the only source of this color, this purple. And they would have to grind down 12,000 of these seashells to get, I think, 1 ounce or something of this dye that they would use. And so I think that was the most that we reached, researched into the Phoenicians, and that was back in 2013. Other than that, I haven't really dug into that. All right. That's where the word phony came from. Interesting. All right. Okay, you guys, I'm going to pop off of here. I love each and every one of you. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. This information doesn't get out unless you share it. So please share it. We can't rely on the algorithms to, send this stuff out. So you guys have to share it, and then people will be awake to this. I love each and every one of you guys, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe.